she started to get weird with it and forget she wasn't the actual mom. You at home talking shit about the help. How the turntables. Woo! He a bigger person than me, boy. Hello, little enzymes. Welcome back to Dacia's Digest. The topic for today, we're just gonna call it insane family behavior. We have a few stories that are pretty crazy. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hype if you feel so inclined. I see all of your comments, people saying that they give me all of their hypes and just commenting on the videos, hyping it, liking it. I really, really, really appreciate it. Like, it helps me out so much. And I really appreciate everyone who faithfully watches. And even if you don't faithfully watch, I still appreciate whatever you do watch. So yeah, I just wanted to say that we're actually very, very close. We're creeping up on 10,000 subscribers. So I might go live once we hit 10K. I might do a live. So just be on the lookout for that. And I think that's it. Let's just go ahead and get into the stories. Am I the a-hole for prohibiting my mother from seeing my child because she's tricked him into thinking she's his mom? This is from 2020. This is an old story. Throw away to avoid anyone recognizing me. I have a now 3-year-old son who was living with my mom, his grandma, for a year while I was away getting myself together. For personal reasons, I will not explain why I was away for so long, but I felt I needed to better myself for my son. Hey, look, I'm not judging. At least you took some steps. To try and get better. So if you needed to have the child stay with the mom for a little bit in order for you to do that, and your mom was okay with it, then congrats. Great job. They said my mother agreed to take care of him while I was away. I FaceTimed with him whenever I could. Fast forward to last month, I come to my mother's house to pick up my son. He's happy to see me, and me and my mother are talking while he's playing with his dinosaurs. He suddenly looks up at my mother and says, "Mommy, I'm thirsty." I was obviously confused and asked my mother if she heard him call her mom. She laughed nervously and said that he had been calling her that for a while. She basically explained that while I was away, she told him that she was his mom and to call her that. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Now, I understand the grandmother might feel some type of a way, being that she's the one primarily taking care of the child and having all the duties and all of that. But at the same time, 1, she agreed to do it. And 2, that is not her child. If OP didn't sign over parental rights or anything like that, that is not her child. She really has no right to tell the child to call her mom at all. Especially knowing that this wasn't going to be a permanent situation, unless she just didn't have faith in OP and maybe she thought the kid probably going to be with me forever anyway. So that's not right. OP said I laughed and told her that I wasn't comfortable with that since she wasn't the one who birthed him. I told her he should know that she's his grandmother, not his mom. She got upset and told me that he needed a mother figure while I was gone, and she was just trying to fill that role for him. She said something along the lines of, "I've been his mother for a year now, and you can't change it." Again, like I said, I get the complicated feelings she might feel because, yes, she has been his caretaker for a year now, but she's not been the mother. She's been the grandmother, primarily taking care of her grandchild for a year now, yes, but she's not the mother. And she might feel some type of way because she's had the primary responsibility. Again, like I said, she chose to take that on. She didn't have to. There were other options. It's not an option that I would suggest as, a first option, but foster care. The kid could have gone to a foster parent. I'm happy that the grandmother chose to step up and take on the role, because usually it's better if the child can be placed with a family member versus being put in the foster care system. So she did an admirable thing. I'm not trying to take away from the sacrifice that she made, the time, the money, the care, the energy, everything that went into it. At the end of the day, she's not the mother. And telling the child to call her mother, that is a huge overstep. OP said, we went back and forth until it got to the point where we started raising our voices. She spat out some insults about me being a bad mom for being away for so long and how she should be his mom because he doesn't need a mom like me. Damn. I simply told her that she isn't going to be seeing him anymore because I'm not comfortable with him calling her mom. We gathered his stuff and left after that. She blew up my phone for days, talked some mess to family members, anything she could do to make me look or feel bad, but I refused to forgive her, especially after all that stuff she said. Damn, that escalated quickly. She has a couple of edits. Usually I read the edits after the comments, but I think in this case, it'll make more sense to read the edit first. She said, edit, for those of you saying I abandoned him, I didn't. I was too sick to take care of him. That's all I'm gonna say about that. I couldn't be the best mother to him because of my medical issues. I wanted to be there for him. I didn't just dump him on my mother. I feel the need to explain that because people are getting the wrong idea. It was possible for him to visit, but my mom said it would be best if he didn't see me like that because he'd be too young to understand. And I trusted her, so I didn't allow him to visit. No, I wasn't in a mental hospital or rehab. It was physical health reasons. A lot of you are saying you think I was in rehab because of the way I've worded things in my post. Rather than edit out the original, I'd just like to explain that it's probably not the best wording to use for this situation, and I understand that now. What I meant to say was I felt I needed to be in better health for my son. Getting myself together in my head pretty much means getting better and healthier. I apologize for that. Again, like I said, I applaud her. I'd much rather someone recognize that they need help or recognize that they're not in the best shape to take care of their child at that moment and find a better suited environment for the child versus not asking for help, struggling through, putting the child through trauma, not being at 100%, and it just an overall terrible situation for everyone involved. I applaud her for doing what she felt she needed to do. There was another edit on the same post the next day. It says, this will probably be my last edit. My son is getting a therapist like a lot of you recommended. I'm considering working things out with my mother only because I don't want her fighting for custody. Still unsure though. Damn, that would suck if the mom tried to fight for custody. That would really suck. And so there's just a note here. Most of OP's original comments were her trying to clarify why she was in the hospital and that she didn't just abandon him. And then, so here's a comment. It says, everyone sucks here. Were you in regular contact or just when you had the time? Did you have a set time when you'd be back, or did she have reason to think you were gone for good? My opinion for right now is everyone sucks here. OP said, I FaceTimed him when I could. I was gone for serious medical issues, so it was hard for me to talk to him sometimes. There was no set time I'd be back. It all depended on when I got better. And then she also told someone else, I can't exactly raise my son if I can't even move from a hospital bed. A third comment, she said, I had no choice but to leave him with her. I was physically unable to care for him due to my medical problems. I didn't leave him because I felt like it. I've already considered talking it over with my mother. And then another one, it was possible for my son to see me, but my mom said it would be best if he didn't see me like that because he would be too young to understand, and I trusted her, so I didn't allow him to visit. I probably still would have allowed my son to visit, but that's what they decided to do. She also clarified that she has never done drugs. She was in the hospital for a physical health reason. Someone asked, did he start calling her mom on his own, or did she tell him to call her mom? She said, she told me she told him to call her mommy and that she was his mother. See, now that's even worse. That's even worse. Another comment says, how is your health now? Do you have backup guardian plans in a will should anything happen to you? What do you want to happen next? OP responded, it is not completely resolved, but I am healthy enough to resume caring for my son. I am still receiving treatment, but it will only require multiple doctor visits a month. It's unlikely I will have to be hospitalized again, but just in case I do, he will be going with my sister. What I want to happen next, hopefully, is to talk this out with my mother so she doesn't actually try anything. but I'm not sure if that's a good idea right now. I get the sense that maybe OP had like cancer or something. The way that they're describing what happened sounds like a cancer treatment type of situation thing. But obviously they didn't say specifically what it was, so we can't know for sure. She also said, I raised him until he was 2. Then I was hospitalized and he went to my mother for a year. He was only with her for 1 year, but your point still stands. So the comments are saying everyone sucks here. I'm saying it's the mother because OP was sick. She leaned on her mother to help take care of the son. The mother is the one who was like, look, don't even like FaceTime him or anything. He don't need a visit. He don't need to see you like that. Like he just needs to, they agreed kind of that he just needed more of a stable environment without too much back and forth. And then the mom goes and takes it upon herself to tell the grandson, oh, call me mom. No, that's really weird. I think she got caught up. I think the grandmother got caught up in the situation. So update almost 2 months later. I just wanted to start out by saying thank you everyone for the feedback that you gave me and the judgments. Whether they were negative or positive, I took each and every one of them into deep consideration. I accepted the judgment and indeed realized that I was also being an a-hole. Really? Let me see what she say about this. My son has since seen a therapist, like a lot of you suggested he should. Okay, let me pause. So I do feel that I don't agree with their choice for her to not talk to the son at all. I feel like that was a little bit odd. And I do feel the son could have visited and she could have FaceTimed him more. Although, if it was something like a cancer treatment type of thing, I've had several loved ones who have gone through cancer treatment. I know how much it takes out of you. So I could understand how she might not have had it in her to like, for her to say I FaceTime him when I can makes a lot of sense. If it was something as serious as that. And she said she was in the hospital in the bed, so it would sound like it was serious. But I do feel like the son could have at least visited, maybe on the days where she had a little bit more strength. But just in general, I feel like she did what she felt was in her son's best interest, which is great. So yeah, but anyways, she said, my son has seen a therapist, like a lot of you suggested he should. He's done pretty well, although the therapist suggested he continue therapy for a little longer, considering he's still confused about the situation. He knows I'm his mother, but essentially he thinks he has 2 moms. I've done my very best to go slow with him and teach him who his mom is and who is his grandmother. Regarding his grandmother, I did what a lot of you suggested and let her FaceTime him every day for a couple of hours to not upset him. I did this until an incident involving her came up. I'm taking this to court. As much as I hate to further upset my son, I have come to the conclusion that she no longer needs to be in contact with us, at least not for a while. I'm sorry for all of you that this disappoints. I just want to do what's best for my son. As for my health, I am slowly getting better, in case any of you were wondering. I have to visit my doctor several times a month, but that's an improvement, honestly. Thank you all. I wish this situation could have ended differently, but I was able to try to resolve it thanks to all of you. Dang. Oh my goodness. So some more context as to what exactly happened that made her have to go to court. Somebody asked, sorry if this is sensitive, but I was curious of what incident happened that is making you go to court. Also, I think you're doing a wonderful job as a mother and wish you and your son the best in life. You don't have to answer my question. I guess I'm too curious for my own good. OP said, long story short, she tried to take him from me in the middle of the night. Someone said, did she try to break in, lure him outside? I'm sorry, I'm super curious. OP said she broke in. I forgot that I had given her a key to my house before I left for treatment. I woke up to the sound of the door opening, it squeaks. I went into the living room, saw it was cracked, went to check on my son, and she was in there getting him dressed to leave. Yo, what? The window in his room was also open, so I think she was gonna go out through there. That's why I was on her side from the beginning, because again, I'm just going to keep repeating. I understand the complicated situation. I understand the grandmother might feel that she has a little bit more like stake in the game. She's been there, she's been taking care of him. All of that is admirable. Great job, grandma, whatever. Where she messed up is telling the grandson to call her mom. That's the overstep part. Like, they would have been good if she wasn't doing all that weird stuff. She would have still got to see her grandson. They would have still been able to have a relationship, all of that. But she started to get weird with it and forget she wasn't the actual mom. Now look, you ain't even gonna see the child at all. That sucks. And then OP also said, I didn't want to press charges. The police said I should take it to court for a restraining order. They basically escorted her home, but she was not arrested. I don't think jail is a very good place for my mother, as she is almost 50. I'm not saying what she did is okay. I still care about her. She's my mother. I always will in some way. I'd rather move far away from her than let her rot in a jail cell. After I get my restraining order, I will most likely be moving anyways. I don't expect anyone to understand, but I'm not a vengeful person. In my eyes, she needs help and therapy, not jail. The police already have the incident documented, I believe. Someone questioned about the son's father. OP said, I don't know where he is. He left the hospital when my son was born, and I haven't seen or heard from him since. Damn. And then somebody said, keep in mind, this was during the height of COVID. We have no idea what OP's physical issues were, but COVID could have played a role in all of this too. To be honest, it really don't matter to me what it was. She could have been strung out. She could have been, just had mental health issues. Really, whatever it was, I think she did what was best for her son, which is to leave him with a trusted family member because she didn't have the capacity to fully take care of him in that time of her life. And the mother overstepped her boundaries. Dang, she deleted the account. All right, next. Am I the a-hole for refusing to take care of my niece after she called me a slur? Golly. Hi, everyone. I apologize for any errors in my English as it's not my first language. I, 29 male, and my wife, 30 female, have 2 kids, 5 male, 3 male. My wife works a full-time office job while I work from home with extremely flexible hours. Basically, as long as I meet my deadlines, no one really cares how many hours it took or what time of day I work outside of some Zoom meetings. My sister, 26 female, let's call her Barb, and her husband, 30 male, let's call him Nick, live nearby and work full-time jobs. They have a daughter, 5 female, let's call her Tracy. I always hate when people put too many names. Not hate, but like, it just makes it confusing when people put too many names. So I'm just gonna probably say OP's sister and OP's sister's husband and OP's niece, because I just feel like that's easier than trying to remember all these names. They say, because of my comfortable work schedule, when our kids started going to daycare, we basically decided that I will be dropping off and picking up my niece from daycare along with my own kids. I didn't really mind, and I thought it was great for my kids to spend time with their cousin. I get along with my niece as well, and always thought I was her cool uncle. She's a sweet kid and usually well behaved. So anyway, most days I bring her and my kids back to our house. I make them snacks or dinner, and in the afternoon and evening, my sister comes to pick them up. A few days ago, the 5-year-old kids were watching Bluey on the TV as I was preparing snacks with my 3-year-old, and I suddenly heard yelling. I rushed over to see what's up, and my son was yelling at her that my dad's not a girl, while my niece yells back, he is. That's like a girl. The word is the word that the kid said they put is the F word slur for a gay person. And then he put in parentheses, the word is different in my language, but the meaning holds, as is the distinction between using it versus simply addressing a gay person. I'm kind of in shock at first, but I turned off the TV and I sat her down and began explaining that this is a very bad word and we shouldn't be calling people that, and that regardless, I'm not a girl. And because this is a bad word, she should apologize to me because we don't act mean to each other in this family. And if I hear this again, I'm going to talk to her parents and she's going to get in trouble. See, I knew it. I knew this was coming. Because kids, their parents, they don't come up with this stuff. She didn't just all of a sudden know what that word means and know the context and know how to use it. She heard it from somewhere. And listen to this. Opie said, she said she won't get in trouble because that's what her dad called me. And he's not in trouble. I was stunned. I told her that regardless of what her dad said, it's a very bad word and she's not to use it with me or in my presence, and that she should apologize regardless because it hurt my feelings, which she did because she's a really good kid. That's the audacity. I'm helping you take care of your kids. I'm helping you with pickups and drop-offs and all types of stuff so that you can focus on, work and whatever. I'm creating a community environment. Your daughter gets to spend time with her cousins and, you got free daycare basically, like after school, whatever. And then you at home talking shit. You at home talking shit about the help. All right, he finna learn. He said, we talked some more and I probed her about other things her parents said. And from what I gather, getting info out of a 5-year-old being obviously a difficult and unreliable process, my brother-in-law told my sister in my niece's presence that men shouldn't be sitting at home all day and doing childcare, that cooking is a woman's duty, as is cleaning, and really most of the things I do around my house. And that I'm a girl, I interpret this as not really a man, because I do housework and my wife earns more money than me. I explained to her the best I could that men and women could work from an office or from home, and that my wife or my sister working long hours from the office doesn't make them men, and vice versa. But I didn't dwell on it with her since it's not really her fault. I'll show you. See, and don't bite the hand that feeds you. Don't bite the hand that feeds you, because I'll show you. I'll show you a real man. Go pick up your own damn kids. Go watch your own kids after school. Go take your own daughter to daycare. Since I'm just so much not a man. And I think that's what he ended up doing too. So he said, I didn't immediately bring it up with my sister because I figured it would be a difficult conversation and I didn't want to have it in front of the kids. And I wanted to talk it out with my wife first as well. I did talk to my wife that evening and she seemed really upset as well. I told her that I think I should demand an apology from my brother-in-law and my sister, and she agreed. I called my sister and told her what happened, and she said that it's just a word and I'm blowing it out of proportion. And obviously, my brother-in-law doesn't dislike me. Girl, what? I said I don't care whether he does or doesn't dislike me. He is talking shit about me behind my back to my niece and to her, and she is apparently very chill about this, rather than standing up for me. Right. Now I'm side-eyeing the sister. Talking about something, it's just a word. Okay, bitch. Since it's just a word, I got a lot of words for you. What? OP says, she said that's just how her husband was, and I should stop being a drama queen. I told her to F off, and if that was how she felt, she could pick up her own child from daycare, and hung up. Right. I know it was really short notice and rude, but I really felt like I was being disrespected by people I did so much for over the years and were my family. My wife said she understood and that I shouldn't back down until I at least got a proper apology. Period. I love that they're on the same page. The next 2 days were a weekend and there was no daycare. So it's not too much of a short notice. They have a whole weekend to figure out their daycare pickup and drop off plans. He said, I assumed there would be calls or texts from my sister, but there was nothing. In fact, the suspicious lack of any messages or calls made me think she didn't take my words seriously, and this actually got me even more angry. The calls did come when it was time to pick up my niece for daycare, and I obviously didn't come. I dropped my own kids off and didn't even answer for a while. I know it was petty, but I was stewing for 2 days and figured letting my sister stew for a few hours seemed really appropriate and felt really good. Around noon when she called again, I did pick up. I was going to smugly tell her that I was ready for my apology and we would put it behind us, but I didn't get to. Instead, she went off on me about how I was irresponsible and I flaked, and she was so late for work because of me, to which I just said, I told you I wasn't going to pick her up. You had 2 days to make arrangements. Right. That's what I see. I like him. I like him. That's what I'm saying. You had the whole weekend to figure out what your arrangement was going to be. You should have set your alarm early, sister. He said she kept yelling at me, so I hung up again. She kept calling and sending me texts about picking her daughter up from daycare, to which I said I will not be, and then stopped replying. When I came to pick my kids up, my niece was expecting me to take her as well, and I didn't, which was very rough on me and her both. Like, I know it's not her fault, and she's 5, and she suddenly doesn't get to go over to our place and play and have snacks, but at the same time, I didn't want to just let this thing go. I felt like I deserved an apology, and still do, so I explained that me and her mom were fighting, but I'll pick her up again when we work it out. She obviously didn't take it well because she's 5, but I apologized, took my kids, and left. Damn. It sucks that the kid has to be like in the middle of this. Luckily though, it's not like a life or death situation. It's not a situation where she's in harm's way or anything. She just maybe has to wait a little bit longer to be picked up. But it sucks because that's like her routine. She don't get to play with her cousins and all of this riffraff. Really, the sister can just apologize. And for you to be so brazen to treat someone who helped you out that much, to treat them in that way and not even be grateful for the things that they're doing and then just talking shit behind their back. Because my thing is, if the dad has said it so much so that the niece is able to regurgitate it, that means he feels comfortable saying that at home. That means the sister is not defending him at all. And you can see that she's not, because when he called her and asked her about it, she's talking about something. It's just a word. Oh, okay. Okay. He said, well, a bit later, I got a call from my mom. My sister roped her into picking up my niece, but my mom is disabled, so she was having a really hard time with my niece and asked me why I was being so mean to my sister. I told her everything, expecting her to take my side. But instead, she also pulled a, you know how Nick is, to which I replied that the more I realize how Nick is, the less I like it. And if he thinks all this stuff in general and about me specifically, I sure as hell ain't gonna be doing the free labor for him. She said I was blowing this all out of proportion, and I told her I wasn't the one doing it because all I asked for was a freaking apology, and everyone else seemed to prefer all of this instead of just giving that to me. To which she said I should just be the bigger man and not let it get to me, to which I said I was done and to have fun with my niece. Why is the family all acting like this? That is so odd. He said that evening I got a call from my brother-in-law himself, which I was hesitant about, but chose to answer on the off chance that I was actually about to get that apology. Nope. Apparently my behavior is causing my sister great distress, and we're family, and how can I do this to my own sister? I told him that since we're family, how can he talk shit about me to his kid, which I take care of daily? And he said he was only joking and it was all in good fun. I told him it was neither good nor fun for me, and I wanted my apology. It literally takes nothing. Like, I just don't understand why these people refuse to give him an apology. It literally takes nothing. It literally takes nothing just to say, you know what, bro, I'm sorry. You're right, I'm sorry. But instead, everyone is expecting OP to be the one to just be the bigger person, let it go, when he's the one that was wronged? Hell nah. And he's the one that is doing them a favor. It's not like it's the other way around. Like, he the one that's going out of his way, spending his time and effort doing them a favor. This family is backwards. Then he said he blew up on me, telling me I was a slur for gay people and couldn't take a joke, and called me a hysterical little girl. I told him to F off and that I was done with him and hung up. This led to a bunch of calls from my sister and my mom, which I didn't answer. My sister texted me that it wasn't fair for my niece to pay the price for me being petty, and I told her that it wasn't fair for my niece to pay the price of her parents being ungrateful pieces of, to which she just yelled at me a bunch about how she was going to lose her job and I was being cruel to her and to mom. I told her I was done, and unless her next message was an apology, I will be blocking her number, and it wasn't, so now I blocked her. I just don't get it. Is it really that hard just to say, I'm sorry? The past few days, my mom's been picking up my niece, and it's been really rough seeing her in daycare and explaining that grandma is going to pick her up, which she hates, and tells me she isn't having fun with grandma and wants to come over to our place, and it's breaking my heart. But at the same time, I never got a single apology from anyone but the 5-year-old. And I feel like letting this go would just be telling my family that it's okay to ignore my boundaries. But at the same time, I do love my niece and I don't want to traumatize her or have her resent me. She is a good kid and none of it is her fault. So am I the a-hole, and what do I do? I mean, as a compromise, what he could do, and this would be petty, this would still be petty, but I mean, just so that she's like not feeling left out and stuff. Yes, the grandmother could still pick her up from the daycare, but maybe she could drop her off at his house after, so then she could still have her time with the cousins. It's just about the principle. It's just about the principle of the matter. So grandmother could drop her off. She could go to daycare. Grandmother could pick her up and then drop her off again at OP's house. Whenever the daughter needs to be picked up or dropped off, either the grandmother back to her house, either the grandmother or the parents can do it. But basically, like, the onus of doing all the pickup and drop-offs would be off of OP, and the point still stands, but the niece isn't like still too much affected by it, kinda. I'm just so surprised at how all of the family is reacting. Somebody said, not the a-hole. Nick is always the a-hole, so people are getting used to putting up with him. You standing up to him and making him responsible for his actions is breaking the status quo. They would rather tell you to help stabilize the boat than tell Nick to stop rocking it, because it's easier to bully a nice person than it is to change a bad person. Damn, that is too much like right. Somebody said, you know how he is the biggest, worst excuse ever. Might as well say, boys will be boys. It still doesn't make it right. This a-hole needs to apologize to you profusely and make amends and not teach his kids stereotypes and gender roles. He's a total prick, and I would go no contact with all of them. Somebody said, next time they say, you know how he is, you respond, now he knows how I am. Sister and brother-in-law could have apologized even lately and maybe got OP to help. Instead, they insult OP, and when he reacts, they dig in deeper. Wow. And I was so surprised at the mom, taking up for him as well. So there was an edit on that post. He said, holy crap, you guys. Post has barely been up 4 hours, and I'm already so grateful for all your support and advice. The angle of Nick actually wanting my sister to quit her job is not one I considered, but now I think it might actually have merit, and it makes me very worried for her. Some people are saying that the brother-in-law is actually trying to get the sister to quit her job. I mean, that would track, actually. Just given his attitude and the type of person he is that I can tell from the post, that would track. And so being that having to take the daughter to daycare is making her late to work and causing her to potentially lose her job, he's kind of taking advantage of the situation, like, oh, well, if he's not gonna back down, I'm gonna just try to make the situation worse, so he really, really won't back down, and then she'll have to keep taking her, and then she'll lose her job. He said, at the same time, I can't really do much until she at least acknowledges that that's just how Nick is, so stop overreacting isn't going to fly with me. I also assume it's only a matter of time until my mom is no longer an option. She's already having a hard time, so I hope I get a chance to talk to her about it. Ideally, because she sees my point of view, but I'll settle for it because she's desperate. I don't know what sort of childcare they'll be able to afford. They took out a large mortgage on a house they can barely afford. I will also make certain to stress upon my niece that I love her and none of this is her fault. Thank you all. One day later, there was an update. All right, so I posted this yesterday and was genuinely overwhelmed by the comments, advice, and support. I'd like to thank everyone for it and feel this warrants an update. Just to clarify a few things, my dad died from a heart attack 2 years ago, which came as no surprise because he smoked a lot and lived a pretty unhealthy life, so we weren't really surprised. It wasn't his first either. He was a great grandpa and a great dad before that, and right up to the end. But his death left my mom alone and she doesn't work. My mom has MS, which is basically mostly steady, but slowly gets worse over time and flares up occasionally and is made worse by stress, which my mom goes through now. A flare-up often means the level she gets back to isn't quite what it was before, so we mostly try to keep her stress-free. My dad had life insurance, so her house is paid for, and she had a little money, but there's also a caretaker coming over 3 times a week to clean, cook, do shopping, etc., which she can't afford, so me and my wife pay for it. As I mentioned in a comment on the original post, me and my wife are doing probably better off financially than my sister and her husband. They have a fancy house and fancy cars, but they have a mortgage and loans. So the great response I got made me think about this crap again, and I thought about how I could stand my ground without giving up on Tracy altogether and figured there was no perfect solution and I had to settle on something. I took the day off work because I just needed to process and deal with this crap. One comment on the original post really got to me about how someone would feel in my niece's place, and I just can't do it to her now. I know this isn't the update some of you wanted, but I just can't. I love her like she was one of my own, and my kids do as well, and it's not her fault. I unblocked my sister because obviously, if I'm going to be interacting with her child, she needs to be able to reach me. I get it. I mean, I wish that wasn't the case, but I get it, bro. I get it for sure. Damn, he got a cave. He got a cave for the niece's best interest. I get it. He said, I talked to my mom during the day and she was, again, distraught about having to pick my niece up, which is pretty hard on her. I told her I was willing to do it, but I'm coming over and she's going to have to hear me out, to which she agreed. I talked to her for a long time, avoiding snark and lashing out this time, and just explaining that basically how serious Nick was or how he is doesn't matter. I used that rocking the boat analogy someone linked to in the comments and further stressed my point by saying that it shouldn't matter if I was justified or not in getting upset. I am her child, and if something upset me, it at least warrants giving me the benefit of the doubt before siding against me, and eventually it seemed to come through. She apologized and we hugged it out, and I think she got it. She's not a very confrontational person and generally tries to keep the peace, and this time she went about it wrong. I'm not saying I'm not mad, but she's my mom and she apologized. I explained to her that she shouldn't be covering for me because that means I have no leg to stand on when confronting my sister and her husband, and she was receptive to it. I texted my sister that we needed to talk and I'll drop off my niece at their place tonight, to which I got a stoic thumbs up. Bitch. Woo, he a bigger person than me, boy. He's a bigger person than me. Cause that would just undo everything. I'd be like, you know what? I'm sorry, niece. I can't do it. I tried. I can't do it. What you mean? Thumbs up. I can't. I'm too petty. I'm sitting over here. I shouldn't even be the one coming to you. I shouldn't even be the one trying to reconcile. I text you and you send me a thumbs up. I would have been like, you know what? Never mind. I'm sorry, niece. Anyway, he said I picked Tracy up from daycare today and she was overjoyed. She was actually a little possessive of me, staying by my side all afternoon instead of running off to play, which was cute, but also made me feel like crap a little because that's the impact of me not picking her up. I explained to the best of my ability that she's not in trouble and I'm not angry with her, but I am angry with her parents and we need to work that out. But I'll do my best to not stop picking her up anymore, which she was really happy about. I dropped her off in the evening, and once she was in bed, I sat down to talk with my sister and her husband. I told them flat out that mom wasn't going to be covering for them anymore, and if they didn't let me finish what I had to say, I would get up and leave. And they can find new arrangements for my niece. I didn't mean it, but they didn't need to know that. They weren't happy, but they were willing to listen, so that's progress, or at least the threat working. I explained that this was the situation now. I don't need them to mean their apology, but I sure as heck was going to need one. This was principle now. Exactly. Exactly. I have spent years taking care of their child, and if they wanted to be a-holes, I wasn't going to do it for free, so this was how it goes now. I am no longer going to be dropping her off in the morning until further notice. There was no excuse for the way Nick acted, and it needed to have some lasting impact. I was no longer going to be paying for family outings and family vacations. It was a man's job to support his family, so good luck with that. The exception is my niece, who is always welcome. If I hear any more BS being talked about me behind my back, I was going to start charging them for my service. My plan was to dangle the thing they want, childcare, restoring it, but at the same time giving some repercussions and threat of things getting hard for them again. I also laid it on pretty thick about how I am a man, so I obviously have my pride and can't have that be disrespected even by my own family, who I obviously love. Don't really consider Nick family, but I figured he wouldn't figure that out. Nick was not happy about this, and my sister actually had to take him outside to talk it out without me, but eventually they did agree to it, and I got my admittedly half-hearted apology. I could probably press it further, but I didn't want to risk having to either back down or hurt my niece again. So I took this. There were no tears and no warm hugs, but I get to walk away with what I wanted, giving them some payback without having to give up my time with my niece. I still plan to talk to my sister alone about her relationship with Nick and about how she sees me, but I figure I should let things calm down a bit before I do. I know this isn't the resolution some, maybe most of you wanted, but at the end of the day, I need to find a solution I can live with, and for me, this is it. I will update if anything changes. I like this solution because that's what I was trying to figure out too. Like, how can we get to a place where the niece isn't affected, but the sister and the brother-in-law still learn their lesson? I feel like this is the best possible outcome, to be honest. Like, he thought some things through. He at least got the apology, barely. But I feel like this was the best way that this was going to turn out. So we have another update. 3 months. I think there's like 2 more updates on this story. 3 months later. Yeah, there's 2 more updates. 3 months later, there's another update. These past few months, things have been tense, but okay. I haven't gone back on my word about dropping her off and haven't been paying for meals or anything really. And that's the funny part too. He over here paying for meals, vacations, taking your daughter to daycare, picking her up, taking care of her after daycare, and you have the audacity to sit over there and talk shit about him. He literally has been doing so much to keep your family afloat. Literally. If anything, he's a man in the family. But you gonna sit here and that's probably why he was insulting him like that, because the brother-in-law probably feels insecure himself, now that I think about it. So he low-key is projecting. This man is doing more for your family than you are in some aspects. Anyway, yeah, he said, I haven't gone back on my word about dropping her off and haven't been paying for meals or anything really. I also, having realized what sort of man Nick is, have been gently trying to get some alone time with my sister and ask her some questions about their relationship. Has he been isolating her? Is she financially dependent on him? Can she go out with her friends? How jealous does he get? Some of her answers made me a little uncomfortable, but I can't really force her into anything. I'm not trying to excuse the way she treated me, But also, I think she's in a bad situation herself, and I don't want her to become more isolated than she is. So I'm gently trying to guide her down the right path, dropping hints like, isn't it like what your really bad ex used to do? And the like. I don't think she quite realizes how deep into this she is, but I also know from past experience that forcing her into anything is really going to mostly cause her to pull away and become more stubborn. So I'm trying to guide her to the right conclusion gently while making sure she knows she has a place to go and someone to support her if she ever chooses to break things off. That is a great approach. Nick hasn't really been anything with me. I don't think his feelings about me changed much, but he's basically avoiding interacting with me and has to work a lot when we get together as a family, which I think might be the best outcome for everyone involved. My niece has been sweet. She's slowly learning to read alongside my oldest and still enjoys bad words. We just use less mean bad words now. Poop has been a hit. She's now a big fan of the Tom Cardy song, Have You Checked Your Butthole? We've been pretty good about making clear the difference between rude words and hurtful words. Over the holidays, we went on a trip. At first, my sister and her husband were probably shocked that I was serious when I said they were welcome to join us, but I wasn't paying for anyone but my niece, if they choose to send her along. I talked it over with my sister, leaving it up to her how to convey that to her husband, who, as stated, was avoiding me. I assume he didn't take it well, but I don't really have a way of knowing for sure. My sister, for her part, tried doubling down, getting me to cave, but I stood my ground. I said I wasn't paying for things, and I meant it. I explained, again, that this wasn't about a specific trip, but about the fact that I used to believe that they genuinely and unconditionally loved me, and that is just no longer the case. It's not something I can just unfeel. I need to feel like I am standing up for myself, and she can choose to respect my feelings and my decisions or be angry. But I won't back down on this, and the only choice that is up to her is to come on her own dime or not, and send my niece along with us or not if she chooses not to come. She ended up sending her along, and we had a blast. My wife seems much relieved to no longer have to put up with Nick as often. She apparently had him pegged from the get-go, but wanted me to come to my own conclusions and was hoping he wasn't as bad as he seemed to her initially. She's glad I'm standing up for myself and is glad we still get to hang with my niece. I still hope someday my sister comes to her senses about her situation, and I will support her if she does, despite not quite being over what she either thought about me or at least didn't stand up for me to Nick about, but she's still my family. Regardless, thank you to everyone for your support and advice. And I think it's so ironic how you're sitting here saying that another man isn't a man, but then begging for him to pay your way on a family trip. Make it make sense. The irony. You try to make fun of him, belittle him, put him down, call him slurs, but then want so many things from him. This same man that you put down, you just want so much. How the turntables. Bruh. So 11 months later, there was another update. This is one of the newest ones. And this one, child, the title says, I'm having a hard time being there for my sister after my mom's passing. So the mom passed away. Damn. Rest in peace to the mama. That is so sad. He said, I don't really know how to explain this frustration, really. It's not that she did anything wrong. She's not being rude or hurtful or anything. I'm just really, really tired. I feel like I'm spread too thin and I don't have much left to give. It's all just too much. It all started a few months back. My mom's health took a turn for the worst. She started some treatment which made her immune system go out of whack, and unfortunately, that caused an infection and she was just gone. It was a matter of weeks. One moment she was her usual self, then she had an MS flare-up, and soon she was just gone. It was so sudden. And then, before I really had time to deal with my feelings of that, my sister told me she was getting divorced. I don't blame my sister for that. The way her ex behaved regarding my mom's health and passing made it absolutely the right choice. But my sister just started depending on me so much for everything: emotional support, childcare. It was too much. I used to be able to be there for her all the time, but I just can't as much anymore. I have a job, I have my own children to deal with. I can't have a 2-hour phone call with her at 2 a.m., then get up and function all day like I could when I was 23. To make things worse, her ex is making the divorce an absolute nightmare. He keeps making things up or randomly opposing previously agreed to terms, which my sister needs to deal with, which often involves turning to her lawyer, the social worker managing the case, and sometimes a judge. It drains her time and resources, and then I have to shoulder some of that load as well. It gets absurd. At one point, he used her spare key to her car to take his daughter's car seat. There was no reason to it as far as I can tell, except it being a gift from his mom or something and him wanting to be petty. He just left her without one, without telling her, which meant I had to be called to give her my spare. It was the pettiest shit in existence. They're trying to sell their house, which they have to do to cover what I now know to be an absolutely unreasonable mortgage they took out to buy it. But this, having to go through 2 levels of lawyers, the ones handling their divorce and the ones handling the property stuff, also makes it both cumbersome and exhausting. I'm just drained. I want to be there for my sister and, even more importantly, my niece, but I'm just so tired all the time. I feel myself having less patience, becoming less fun with the kids. I hate that they're paying the price for what isn't their fault at all, but I just don't know what to do. I considered therapy, but I genuinely don't have the time. My wife's been a godsend, but her work is incredibly demanding, and there's only so much she can reasonably do. And besides, these aren't really her monkeys. I can only reasonably burden her with so much. I'm just so drained. I don't know what to do really except soldier on, but it's just really hard right now. Look, you gotta start setting some boundaries with sis. I know it might be hard, but you just can't be available at her beck and call 24/7. It's not gonna work. You gotta start not answering the phone. It might be a little hard, but if you're saying that you're up at 2 a.m. on the phone, you might have to cut back on those phone calls. Unless you're really, really worried about like her mental health and you think she's gonna do something. But from what I'm reading, it doesn't sound like that. It sounds like more she just needs to vent or whatever. She needs to start trying to manage some of that. Get a journal. If no one is available at that moment, get a journal, write out your thoughts. When he is available, when he does have the capacity, then you can talk to him. But there needs to be a little bit of a balancing act here. I'm not finna be sitting up 2-hour phone calls at 2 a.m. when I have children. Not like for an extended period of time. I might do it a couple of times when I see that you really, really need it. But for an extended period of time, like a month, couple months, no, I'm not answering. I'm just not going to answer the phone. I'll call you back once I'm up and awake, but you finna run yourself ragged and then you won't be able to help anyone. Yourself, your sister, your family, your kids. So I would suggest starting to put into place some boundaries. It sounds like she doesn't have much of a community to lean on, and so she's solely leaning on you. Does she have a therapist herself that she can talk to? Again, journaling is quite helpful. Taking long walks, thinking things out, voice notes. You figured out the last situation. You was able to put into a compromise into the last situation. Think along the same lines as that, to where you can still be of assistance, but it's not totally taking away from what you have going on. Otherwise, sorry for your loss, because that's very, very sad. Okay, I had another story that I planned for this video, but it's extremely long. Like, this video would be probably like an hour and a half, hour 45 if I include that one. So I'll do that in a upcoming video. But I do want to add a third story since that's been kind of the trend that we're going with recently. So this one got reposted on our subreddit. So I'll read this one. And it kind of has to do with families, kind of. So, am I the a-hole for growing apart from a friend after she became a mother? My 26 female good friend, 25 female, has a daughter who just turned 15 months old. We've known each other for almost 3 years, and from the moment we met, we clicked instantly. We could hang out on what I consider a regular basis, at least what I consider to be regular for a couple of mid-20-year-olds with busy lives, at least twice a month, and we always had a great time. Even once she got pregnant, nothing about our relationship changed, and I gladly helped her with all the baby prep, like picking out clothes, decorating the nursery, planning her baby shower, etc. I always knew that once she gave birth, our friendship would change, but that I would do my best to support however I could. It didn't seem like she fully understood how her life would change once she had a daughter, though. She was incredibly excited to be a mother, but she would talk about a plan for us to go to concerts that were 2 to 3 months after her due date. Yeah, you're probably not going to a concert when your baby is 2 to 3 months old. Unless you really have some trusted childcare and a lot of support at home, it's possible. It's not impossible, but you do have to have some sort of like a village in place or some help in place to do that. She wanted to continue our monthly Friday night club hop and sleepover tradition, saying her husband could watch the baby and it wouldn't be a problem, and still planned on attending one of our other friends' bachelorette parties that was going to be out of the country and 4 months after her due date. Like I said, it's possible, especially if she has her husband. It's just the chances are less likely. She said, I wasn't confident that she would be healed enough or have the energy to do these things so soon after giving birth, but I know nothing about kids and have absolutely zero desire to be a mother, so I never said anything about it. Maybe she would be fully capable of doing all of this stuff, and I was just ignorant, and I didn't want to make it seem like motherhood would mean she couldn't have fun anymore, so I was just supportive of her plans in the moment. Probably the same thing I would have did. Like, okay, girl, yeah, we'll go to the concert. Meanwhile, you're thinking like, I don't know if we're going to make that concert. But lo and behold, nothing really worked out the way she imagined. Her daughter was and is extremely cute, but also a total mama's girl and extremely clingy. She tried pumping milk so both her and her husband could feed her, and she refused to drink from a bottle. So it got to the point where she couldn't go anywhere without her daughter. She was, in fact, not healed enough to go to any of the concerts we had planned with our friend group and was bedridden for about 3 months after giving birth. God damn. Ooh, bedridden 3 months. Ooh. I'm telling y'all, it's gonna have to take a special man to get a baby out of me. I just don't know. Everything I hear about pregnancy and babies, I just don't know. I just don't know. She said her husband is active duty in the military and has to work 12-hour overnight shifts at least once a week. He's an absolute saint, and whenever he's not working, is very active in taking care of the baby. But on the days where he simply couldn't be there, I would fill in the gaps and spend the night to help her. This was very draining, as I have to be up for work at 5 a.m. and work 10-hour shifts, but I knew she had to have been just as, if not even more tired. I wasn't doing this every day, and I wanted to be there for her when I could, as they don't currently live close to either of their families, so they don't have that support network at the moment. That is incredibly nice. You are a great friend to do that. She said she also had a falling out with quite a few in our friend group as she tried to insist that she bring her daughter on the bachelorette trip since she couldn't leave her behind, since she refused to bottle feed and she didn't want to lose out on the money she already paid for flights and hotels and excursions. The bride-to-be ended up giving her all the money back, and the rest of us had to cover her portion, so not many of the girls were keen on helping her out at that time. So I knew I was one of the few people she had at the time and didn't want to leave her to struggle on her own. Man, Fast forward a few months and the baby is now 1 year old and much more independent. She's bottle feeding pumped milk regularly and is good to stay with her father overnight without throwing a fit. So I started inviting my friend to come over my place for a girls' night or go out for dinner to get her out of the house so she can relax without the baby. However, she would bring the baby to these outings without telling me. We went to a local restaurant we used to frequent before the baby that regularly has live music and has a fun vibe without being clubby. It's not that the place doesn't allow kids, but it's not somewhere anyone brings even older kids to, let alone an infant. But still, she brought her, and she ended up being fussy the whole night and crying whenever the music came on. Another time, I invited her to see a horror movie known to be very loud and scary, and she showed up to the theater with her daughter. Needless to say, we left 15 minutes after arriving because her daughter would not stop screaming. I gently asked her if everything was okay at home. Did her husband have a problem with watching the baby, and that's why she brought her with her every time we hung out? And she casually said, no. He always encourages me to get out of the house and have some me time if I want, but that's the problem. I don't want it. I just love my little girl so much, I want to take her everywhere with me. You love your little girl so much. I don't. Yeah. You love her so much, we don't. Girl, like, come on now. Have some time to miss your baby. You bring her on the outings and come on now. Then you not even telling people you bringing the girl. Why would you bring a baby to a horror film? Come on now. She said, again, I'm not someone who loves kids all that much, and as cute as her daughter is, I'm not looking for all of our hangouts to involve her. I specifically invited her to what I considered to be more adult activities so that she wouldn't be inclined to bring her, but she still would find a way to include the baby in everything we did. I wouldn't like that. Even if I had a baby, I wouldn't be bringing my baby to all the outings. If you've ever tried to have a conversation with your friend that has a kid, it's not the same. The baby you sitting here in the middle of a deep conversation, baby starts screaming, or baby starts getting fussy. The baby's laughing, the baby's grabbing stuff. And you gotta pause the conversation. Then it's all about the baby. It's like you're not able to really get like that full connection with the other person when there's a baby there. No shade to the baby, but that's just, it's different. It's not bad, it's just different. And if you're looking for a certain type of environment or a certain type of hangout, it probably doesn't, the one that she's looking for, it doesn't constitute having a baby there. She said also, anytime she suggested a hangout, it was because she wanted some time to herself and wanted me to watch the baby. We went to a local food festival in our town, and she spent about 10 minutes with me before saying she wanted to step away to grab something and can I watch the baby. She then texts me another 10 minutes later saying she wants to walk around for a bit and would I be okay keeping the baby entertained for a little while. I agree, and she doesn't come back for another hour and a half after she said, hell nah, hell no, 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 no. If you ask me to watch the baby, then yes, I will come over, I will watch the baby. You can go leave and do whatever you want to do. But don't invite me out under the guise that we're going to hang out and have a great time and swindle me into watching the baby. That's not what I came for. I came for the food festival, not the baby festival. That is insane. She didn't come back for another hour and a half, after which she said she was ready to go. Another time we went to the flea market together. I was going to meet her there as I had an appointment that morning and I was going to leave from there, but she kept insisting that it would be easier to carpool and she doesn't mind driving to pick me up and drop me off, even though we were about 20 minutes from each other at the time. I finally agree. She comes and gets me and then proceeds to have me unpack the stroller for her, take her daughter out of the car, strap her in the stroller, and walk her in. And when I didn't immediately do those things upon exiting the car, she looked at me with this confused look and asked me to do it in this kind of condescending tone as if I was a child and she had to spell it out for me. I was confused as I'm not her partner and don't have experience with kids, so there would be no reason for me to automatically be expected to do these things with no prompting. And also, why are you doing it and not her? She's right there. You're not the nanny. She said, yes, I've helped plenty before, but she handled basic things like getting her out of the car or getting her stroller out, so I had no reason to believe this time would be any different. She didn't pick her daughter up once either. I just pushed her around the market the entire time. These instances became more and more frequent, and while I understood that she was probably stressed, it started to feel like I was becoming less of a friend to her and more like free help. So over time, I stopped taking the initiative in making plans. We would still talk regularly and I would still come over and help when she needed, but I would do it less often. I had begun to pick up on how she would word things when she really needed help versus when she just wanted a break, and I would let her know that I wasn't available as often and would try my best, but it wouldn't be like before. She noticed me getting distant and asked me what was wrong, and I was honest with her and told her how I'd been feeling lately. You know what, OP? I like you. I like you because you actually speak up and say, like, even after the horror movie, you was like, is everything okay at home? Like, is your husband not good with keeping the baby? You trying to get to the bottom of it. You helped her after she was pregnant when nobody else could. You was patient with her, even helping her with the baby, going over and doing things. You sound like a really good friend. Now, obviously, this is just your narration and your, point of view of the incident. But to me, if I was her, I would be lucky and blessed to have a friend like you to help me with my baby. And I am so sorry that it ended up like this, where it seems like she sees you more as the help versus an actual relationship to nurture. And I hate to see it. Anyway, yeah, so I was honest with her and told her how I'd been feeling lately. She got emotional and said she can't change being a mother. That's a forever title, and she feels like she's being shamed for it, when I'm not trying to do that at all. I'm just telling her I want to have fun as adults every once in a while, not to be seen as the babysitter and nothing more. I just don't know how to explain it without her taking it as an insult when that's the exact opposite of what I'm trying to do, or if that's even possible at this point. Am I being too harsh with my views? I don't think so. I think you're being exceedingly gracious and understanding, really. Everything that you've done up until this point, I really don't think you have really done anything bad or wrong. I just don't understand why she can't leave the baby at home. And if she can't leave the baby at home or she refuses, then I guess she has to come to terms with the fact that everybody don't want to see your baby all the time. It sounds rough, but that's the truth. Sometimes I just want to see you as a friend. I just want to hang out with you, not with you and the baby, just you. And it's not like OP doesn't actually help with the baby. She comes over, she helps with the baby, she does things with the baby. It's not like the friend has to bring the baby along. She has a husband who's very present and helps. So what can you do? I don't know, but distancing would probably be the approach that I take as well. Somebody said not overreacting. First of all, I don't think she's 100% evil or malicious, but she is careless of your feelings, and she is being unreasonable in trying to saddle you with baby care duties when you neither volunteered nor consented ahead of time. You are not a hired babysitter. You're her friend, and sometimes friends want to do friend things. It unfortunately sounds like she's going to abandon you for mommy friends now that you're not signing up to be free childcare, and that's sad. Of course, looking back into her behavior prior to the kid, did she have a habit of leaving you hanging in small ways that you didn't really mind because they weren't as serious as baby care? This may not have come out of nowhere, so think on whether she's actually been a friend to you. That's a good point. That's a good point. And it would be good for her to get some mommy friends. She needs to get some, when my best friend had a kid, I don't know nothing about no kids. I don't know nothing about raising no kids. When things come up with the kids, just different happenings and goings on with kids. She can't come to me for real and be like, yeah, the kid did this, da 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 da. Cause I'm be like, oh dang, for real? What that mean? But she might be able to go to her mommy friends and be like, the kid did this. The mommy friend might be, oh, my kid did that too. Or my kid went through that phase too. And they have, they can help and support each other. Now I can help and support from an auntie point of view, but it gets to a point. At a certain point, I don't know. I can't give you any advice. I can't give you no recommendations. I have no idea. So I think it's good for moms to have mom friends. Plus, your kids can hang out together. They can have friends. It's good. It's good for the community. So maybe her friend needs some mommy friends. Somebody said, I would have cut her off after the flea market incident where she ditched you with her baby for an hour and a half. F that. I'm a mom too. I get how draining those early years are. I get needing a break and to just be alone for a while. But I never went around taking advantage of people by dumping my baby onto someone and then taking off for over an hour when it was supposed to be hanging out together. Yeah, that was actually crazy. Someone said, not the a-hole, it's turning into a take and take relationship. Someone else, your friend needs a therapist. She's clearly not coping well. Another person said, friendships naturally have highs and lows, but this behavior right here would be driving a wedge in my friendship. Her baby, her responsibility. It's one thing for a quick favor that is asked for in advance, like, hey, can you hold my baby real quick, etc. It's entirely another thing to just expect your help. Unloading the stroller and buckling her own daughter in for her? I laughed. And this right here seals the deal that she's basically using you to offload responsibilities. If this friendship is draining you, not the a-hole for having reasonable boundaries. She sounds completely unreasonable towards you. I agree. Honestly, I applaud you for the way that you've handled the situation. I think you've handled it beautifully, to be honest. And if distancing yourself is the route that you feel like you need to take, I get it, for real. Anyways, let's go to the palate cleanser. We got Patty on the palate cleanser again. I love Patty. Not like that, but he's a singer on TikTok. He's a realtor, but he also does singing videos. And I want Patty to sing at my wedding. I'm going to say this until Patty does sing at my wedding. Now, Patty is not a wedding singer, but I have hope that by the time I get married, he will be. We shall see. But it's a video of him singing For You by Kenny Lattimore. I hope this one doesn't get copyright stricken because I had a Patty singing video in a couple of episodes back and it ended up getting flagged. I think he had like the track behind it or like the original track behind it or something. I don't know why it ended up getting flagged, but yeah, here is the video.
For you, I give a lifetime of stability. Anything's for you. Only for you. Are you kidding me?
He always has this face at the end. It's so funny. Bruh, I want to take like either piano lessons or guitar lessons. I feel like, because sometimes I'll be wearing nails, piano might be a better option. A piano might not be as readily accessible like when I want to practice, because I obviously don't have a piano here. But if I have a guitar, I could take a guitar with me all over the place. I need to look up, can I play the guitar with nails? I've never tried to. I taught myself the keyboard, which I mean, it's kind of like, playing the piano. I taught myself when I was like in middle school or high school how to like read notes and stuff. But that was a long time ago and I do not remember. But I think it would be so cool to know how to play an instrument. I used to play the trombone back in middle school for like 1 year. I couldn't get my embouchure. I wanted to play the flute, but I couldn't get my embouchure right. How your mouth sits on the instrument. I couldn't get it right enough to get the flute to work. So they gave me the trombone, girl. That's okay. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.